And so I think in your essays, it is a source of discovery, and you're looking for something. And you even wrote in your introduction about how you would deliberately try to get lost and then found.
Sure.
Or did you really want to be found? Tell me how this relates to Fante and Bukowski.
Okay, so I had an idea in mind. I wanted to recapture that sense. You know, when you're really young, 19, 20, you read a book, and that book sort of gets into your head, and you're completely obsessed.
Okay.
And if you read a book about Los Angeles, such as like Ask the Dust, which has very, site-specific descriptions,
Right.
you go out there and you look at things and you think, oh, is this where Bukowski ate lunch? Is this where Fante got into a fight? Or, William Saroyan, what are California writers? And so I wanted to do that again, but a little, not as a 19-year-old, but as a 30-year-old, and see, and look at a particular scene or part of the book, and go with it. So what I look at is this particular part of the book where Arturo Bandini goes from downtown LA, from Bunker Hill to Long Beach. And so I wanted to follow that, his trail, and do exactly what he did and try to go from downtown LA to Long Beach in search of his love, or one of his sort of like sexual obsessions, this Jewish woman he meets at a bar and who follows him around. And anyway, and it's just my voyage or my trip and my reading of the book at the same time, and what it gives me and how I compare. I was looking for the 1930s in contemporary LA.
If we were to turn your book into a film, if all the episodes were a film, would it be a film noir?
It would have a lot of dark elements, for sure. But I think the book has a lot of humor in it. I don't know, maybe that's just my idea of it. But I like to think, that I make fun of myself. It's sort of like I'm playing with these big ideas sometimes, but really I make fun of those big ideas too, and I like to go back to just what it feels like going somewhere, or reading a book, or interviewing somebody, and like a very sort of like normal interaction.
One of the two moving essays were Someone Else's Blood, that actually dealt with how one perceives death, and then It's Always Quiet in the End, which talks about, I think it's, was it Nietzsche or Hesse's poetry? Heine's poetry,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Would you care to address that?
Well, both those essays are first-person narratives, as opposed to, they're more personal, I think, in that sense. I'm not necessarily addressing like outside art, but I'm looking at my own life. They're more biographical.
Well, Someone Else's Blood was talking about a cat that was run over.
Sure.
And it seemed like there were three people's perspectives and responses to that.
Sure.
There was the person who drove and ignored the cat. There was the person who picked up the cat, and then there was your response. How would you characterize those different responses?
Sure. So these two essays are part of there are 3 chapters in the book.
Right.
Art essays, political essays, and
Right.
biographical essays, or self-essays.
Right.
But these are part of the last part, self.
Right.
So a friend and I are driving, going to visit another friend, a female, who's in the hospital sick, and we run over a cat and kill the cat, and we don't know what to do. And so we stop the car, we park, and we come out of the car and we see this dead cat, bleeding, a white, beautiful, big cat. We kill the cat. And so we just stand there, and we don't know what to do. And suddenly this man comes out from the shadows, almost like a short story. And it's written in a short story-like form. And he looks at us sort of like, huh, you people. He picks up the cat from the leg, lets a little blood drip, puts it in a grocery cart, and takes it somewhere.
Hopefully not recycling.
I hope not.
I think that you sort of culminate the theme of death in It's Always Quiet in the End, because it's sort of like the perfect beginning of a librarian, and then the way it weaves, I don't want to ruin the story, but how it then weaves around to the end. Any thoughts about that? Because that seemed really personal and almost Zen-like, and because poetry is used as a metaphor of communication.
Sure. These two essays are, one is from 2003, the other one's from 2006. So they're a little old, and this is before I moved from LA to New York to go to grad school. And they're more like personal narratives. And the second one, Always Quiet in the End, is about death, but also, so I used to be a tutor at LA City College, an English tutor. And there was this other tutor, this 80-year-old woman. And she saw me reading a book of poems, a German anthology. And, she approached me and she read some of the poems that I had read, and some of them were sort of very Germanic in their approach to death, and sort of dark. Nietzsche's poetry, which is great. A lot of people think in terms of his philosophy, but, he was a great poet. And anyway, and also I had written a play, a very terrible play, that I don't know, I was 22 or something, 23, and she read my play, and she read the poems that I was reading also, and so I felt this strong connection as a young guy to this 80-something-year-old woman, and then she dies. She literally we have a break, like school break. I think it's spring break, something like that. I don't know, summer, spring. Then I come back and she's no longer there. And I guess what I think about, I read one of the poems that she read, that we both read at the same time, and I think about the fact that it was the last days of her life, and she spent 2 hours reading my terrible play. She could have gone out, we were located under the library. She could have gone up there and read Shakespeare if she wanted to. So it's about that, personal connections and what you do with your last few hours. And just sort of, it's sad but endearing also, I think.
So in other words, it's about a poignancy.
Yeah.
In closing, is there any kind of thing you'd like to address, speaking of poignancy, in the general subject matters, whether it's biography, whether it's art, or the other field?
Sometimes I think what you think you're looking for when you look at a work of art or an experience is not what you get, or what's most important about it. So you go to, an important movie that everyone's talking about because of the great acting, right? And then you're looking for that, but in reality it might be the score, the movie's score, that really affects you and you had no idea. Or it might be the really great popcorn that you ate, or somebody sitting next to you. So I think that has to do with looking at things, going somewhere, but being open to like whatever other experiences are around. I think that's sort of like what connects a lot of these essays, and biographical or not biographical, and all of that.
Patricio, thank you. This has been very informative.
Thank you.
Are there any other thoughts you would like to leave us with that we haven't addressed?
Right. Well, I would like to thank Darkroom, and for giving me the opportunity to write essays for the gallery, and I encourage everyone to sort of come and check out the photography, or check out the website. And yeah, the book will be coming out. It's a Darkroom publication, and yeah, so I hope you like it, and thank you very much for the interview.
Darkroom.info.
Well, patriciomaya.com, walking around with Fante and Bukowski.
And darkroom.com. Thank you much.
Thank you. All right.